request Mr. Madhukar Pandey, Inspector General, Maharashtra Police, to please join us and to please address the audience. And after him, shortly we'll be joined by Mr. Loknath Behra, Additional Director General, Kerala Police. So, sir, I request you to please address the audience and please share your perspective on security and safety.
As it appears that we are reaching the last leg of today's activities, and I have been here since morning, and I must say that I've had very interesting insights, much of which normally we don't come across or see or experience during our day-to-day hardcore policing activities. I am not, this is maybe a good news or a bad news, that I do not have a standard PowerPoint presentation as of now with me. The reason being that the topic given to me is slightly different from the topic that was expressed earlier in the email. I will be briefly touching upon the role of ICT in the areas of security. And it is, let me not get into the definitions of what exactly ICT is and what exactly the job of the police is. We all have a very fair, basic, fundamental idea. What I will be doing here is that I will be only mentioning the specific areas that we, as policemen, deploy, employ, and use for meeting the challenges of security, also traffic, maintaining the traffic logistics. There are 5-6 specific areas that we will mention, and then rather than as we will rather switch over to the demand side, and I will also mention the specific areas or challenges that we are looking at, and maybe if we have some solutions on those specific points, they are most welcome. First, I will talk about the CCTVs. CCTV is, of course, we can all understand is very useful for the purposes of post-incident investigation. It is useful for surveillance. It is also useful for evidence, for maintenance of public order, vital installation security. And I will now briefly tell what exactly do we do in Mumbai and the rest of Maharashtra. Mumbai Police has a traffic-oriented network of 105 cameras which are connected, and there is a traffic police control room where the traffic is monitored using these cameras. Of course, now we are using the various techniques like citizen feedback and crowdsourcing of data. But this camera network exists. Second thing is that there is a project, that is an ongoing project of linking the, installing 5,000 cameras in the city. Using that for purposes of surveillance, crime control. It is a project which has been conceived and is shortly going to be launched, as has been mentioned by the Secretary IT, who is also the Mr. Rajesh Agrawal, who is also the head of the committee that deals with this. I would also like to mention that there is a general perception about CCTV and its correlation with security. And I was in my earlier assignment Additional Commissioner in Mumbai Police Protection and Security Branch for 2 good years. And there was, at that time, there was a lot of security advisories coming up that, different places where public comes up for visits, like malls, multiplexes, 5-star hotels, good hotels, restaurants, stations. They should all have cameras and CCTV cameras. We chased all these institutions and when owners of these establishments. I can today say with a lot of confidence and sincerity that in Bombay, as of now, as we speak, almost every mall, every multiplex, every good hotel, 50% of the buses of the BEST, the new establishments, transport establishments that have come up, monorail, metro, they all have some basic level of cameras with a basic capability of surveillance. The second thing that I want to talk about is RFID, use of that electromagnetic coupling that is done between two devices having the same radio frequencies, that is used for access control, that is used for identification. We have RFID based access control systems at various important and sensitive establishments across the city, and the use of that is being done, although there is considerable scope for horizontally expanding the uses and also to probably make it more efficient. That's what I think. There is a very interesting use of this RFID technology that was some time back that was done in some parts of Mumbai, where the constables and the beat constables were given motorcycles and then they were given a chip, an RFID card, and the receptors were installed at various locations, and they were asked to go on night patrol or daytime patrol around those areas and then register their presence as some kind of attendance marker at those predetermined locations. The third thing that I would like to talk about is social media. Use of social media for policemen is multifold. One is, of course, there are many police establishments. They are using Facebook, Twitter, and other accounts. There have been uses of policemen and citizen making groups of WhatsApp, although the size of the group is limited, but at least the opinion makers are informed about the important developments. The use of that is in nipping any rumor mongering in the bud. The second thing that we are doing is with the help of NASSCOM, Mumbai Police has established what is called a social media lab. It is not really, strictly speaking, a surveillance tool before somebody raises any question of privacy or some thing like that. It is basically just an analysis of the trends of the posts that have been already made on the social media. If somebody has said that he doesn't like such and such thing, and if hundreds of people have said the same thing, and only 20 people are saying something in favor of it, all that we do is that we say that there are more people against it than in favor. Fourth thing is e-transport, the use of registration, e-registration, the driving licenses being centralized, having a centralized database. Then when we put, it is done by the Department of RTO, the micro card that they put in that, which becomes a tool for identification also, e-challans, and cameras that we have already mentioned for transport and traffic management. Another thing that the police is interested in and is using it is the e-identification. Now, e-identification is not merely restricted to the biometric and the high-end solutions, the 100% reliable solutions like Aadhaar card, which has the person's biometric features also. The police is using other methods of identification, like simple things like the person's mobile number, his driving license, all the more better if it has an embedded microchip, his passport, his PAN card, his maybe bank account details, provided a robust KYC norm has been followed in giving these documents like passport or PAN card or mobile number. The other thing that we can talk about is digital georeferencing or the GPS. It is being used by the police for various kinds of uses. One is, of course, for example, the police vehicles of Thane, Mumbai, and some other metropolitan areas. We have a GPS installed in that. That helps us in locating the exact location of the vehicle, whether the person who is driving the vehicle, whether he is correctly reporting his location or not, whether he is actually patrolling in those areas or not. And it also, in case of a distress call, helps us in sending the nearest vehicle so that response time is minimized. We also have installed the GPS in the boats that are used for coastal patrolling. Then there is the advisory that we give to the transport associations, and a lot of transport bodies are there, or private transporters who have GPS installed in their own fleet. We have some very interesting cases of consignment hijacking cases that was solved using the GPS data, and the culprits were not really aware of the GPS systems being installed in the vehicle, and that, along with collating that data along with the mobile phone analysis, was made the detection and solve of the case very easy. Centralized databases are very useful, and the police is right now focusing on various projects. One of them is CCTNS. That is known as Crime Criminal Tracking Information System, Network and Systems. This is a part of the central government's e-governance plan, a 2,000 crore rupees project, although it is moving rather slowly. UID we consider as another important database that will be useful. A concept of NatGrid was introduced some time back, and it is right now under state of conceptualization. And some other tools that are used by the police, automatic license plate recognition system that is there at various traffic junctions and toll nakas, where the camera, along with the help of an embedded software, reads the license plate automatically, and that, with onward integration of other databases, can immediately tell who is the person who is the owner of this vehicle and who should have been the person who is driving this vehicle. And if there is further data, maybe we can immediately sense an alarm whether the person who is driving it is the right owner or not. It also is good for access control. There are systems like UVSS, under vehicle scanner system, which are integrated with this automatic license plate recognition system. There are installations in Mumbai city, sensitive locations, where these are installed. Online complaints to the police can be done in form of a web-based complaint that is there in the website of Mumbai Police, Thane Police, and some other metropolitan police websites. Although the system is not as robust as it should have been, but at least a complaint is there which is forwarded to the nearest police station for further action, and the process does exist. A vehicle command post, concept of a vehicle command post to deal with emergencies, where there will be a vehicle that will be sent to a location of incident, and that vehicle should have and will have within vehicle computing system along with the CCTV feeds, data maps, information, and two-way communication between the main control room and the command post vehicle. Fingerprint scanners are there at various locations, and they should have a facility of uplinking that or linking that with the centralized database. Having mentioned all these existing technologies and tools, let me just switch over to the, as I mentioned earlier, the demand side of technology. So briefly, I will mention the things that we are looking for and where some know-how or breakthrough or some cheaper or more efficient technology will be most welcome. One, a facial recognition system. We have some basic tools that are existing, but it is not up to the desired level, and probably the costs are really exorbitant, where a face or a photograph, once that is taken, should be matched with an existing database, and within seconds we should get an answer that this is that person who is likely to be. Second is the monitoring of social media. We are experiencing that WhatsApp or these present days latest communication apps, they are very good for communicating, but on the darker side, on the flip side, they are also very efficient for spreading rumors. I don't know, all of us must be getting some WhatsApp messages on some groups where some disaster, some imminent disaster, most common of that is that WhatsApp is now going to be charged. So we are all getting such messages, and sometimes they have rumors. And one person, when he gets the message, he immediately circulates it, and it really spreads it horizontally, like some kind of a big bang. Whereas the spread of rumors or misinformation through the use of emails is more linear, such a spread through the use of such social media apps is almost horizontal and much more faster. We are wondering whether there is a solution to intercept or to trace the origins of such messages. About the CCTV, we have CCTV networks are there, and our experience is that there is something called video analytics. Video analytics software exists, which will add software features to determine that if something has been, for example, there is something called left unidentified object detection system. So there is an area marked on the screen, and on that screen, if something that should not, there should not have been there, if something is left there for 1 minute, the software will automatically launch an alarm. What we find is that although these features are very interesting, they make the cost of the CCTV network simply go manifold. So if there is a possibility of a cheaper video analytics solution, that will be most welcome. Then we would also be interested in continuous hand-holding by the suppliers. The experience in at least some cases has not been very encouraging, where there has been a supply of the good promised and delivered, and money has been exchanged, and after that, sight has been lost. So if that doesn't happen, we are also, last point, we are interested in user acceptance. Those who are supplying such software or hardware or solutions, they must understand that the end user of most of these systems is not a senior officer from the police department, but is going to be a constable or a head constable or a sub-inspector, and for him, the solution should appear to be very simple. it should not appear to him to be very intimidating. Unless and until there is simplicity, that rule, it is absolutely mandatory in each and every corner of the land. So there is no discretion in that. It is followed. I don't know if it is not followed at some other places, you can bring it to our notice. Yes.
Mr. Pandey, you know that Maharashtra police requires a lot of investment for modernization, expansion, making police stations. Some time back I had suggested that you should go in for mobile police stations. Instead of brick mortar police stations, you can have mobile police stations. What are the ingredients of a police station? You need an officer in charge. You need somebody to assist him. You need communication system. You might need a small lockup also. So, if you work on these lines, the entire investment of all your modernization scheme can be done in just about 1 to 2 years' time. But I found that in spite of engaging your top level officers in this dialogue, there was not much of response from the police side to going for mobile police stations. Can you tell me what is the feeling within the police? Why you do not want mobile police stations?
Personally, I will not say, just off the hat, I will not say that I am against it. But at the same time, the concept has come just now, so I will not immediately also say that I am totally for it. This has to be studied. But what I can think of as immediate benefits are that instead of the thirsty going to the well is coming to the thirsty. That is number one. Service is reaching to the common man instead of the common man having to go to the service. Yes.
I had suggested that a mobile police station can cater to a larger area by deciding as to on which day where it will be parked. So people will know that on Monday it is parked at this place, on Tuesday it is parked. And in addition to that, in case some people want to come to the police station or register cases, they can even give a call and the entire police station will come there. So the entire investment will be much lower, it will be very efficient. People will be very alert. Right now in a police station, if you go inside a gully and you find a police station, you will find people, playing cards or, not in uniform, putting their legs on the table and sleeping. All sorts of things are happening. So at least I'll request you that at your level you take it up again. And if you think positively towards this, then you should advocate for it.
We will definitely have a look, because I'm not aware of this particular proposal. So as I said, there are certain immediate positives that come to my mind, but there are certain immediate constraints that also come to mind, because a police station has certain other legal requirements. For example, there is something called Malkhana, where all the seized property is kept. There is something called evidence room, where all the court approved evidence that is kept. That probably may not be kept in a mobile this thing. So, but some via media can be worked out, where at least the concept behind it, or the intention behind is this idea is honored, and the overall efficiency of the department is raised. For coming back to your question, the C form is applicable to a person who runs a hotel. And if any foreigner comes and stays in his establishment, the hotel owner's responsibility is to report it to the nearest police station within 24 hours. This is a legal requirement, this happens. But those days are gone. Today we have a lot of different situations where people of different countries, they come and stay in our country in not the hotels, but at some other places. For example, there is something called medical tourism. They come and stay in hospitals. There are clubs. There is a website called Couch Surfing. I don't know whether you are aware of it or not, where people share houses. If I am an Indian citizen and there is somebody who is an American citizen, we may agree using this website that I will go and stay at his house and he will come and stay in my house. No costs involved. That is a gap that has emerged in these recent years. That needs to be filled up. But otherwise, particularly your question, C-form is the legal requirement.
Can I just make one question? This is regarding the mission mode project CCTNS, which is I think underway in most of the states. It was supposed to integrate the crime records across the states. I think Government of India is piloting it, the entire project. So, will that help? Actually, the CCTNS is not only the crime which is done in IPC, but it should also cater to other acts. What is the progress and how it is going to help the technological interventions that you mentioned that is taking place in the urban police sector?
CCTNS will definitely help once the project is realized to its fullest extent, in the sense that there will be a pan-Indian data network that will be available on the fingertips. So if I have somebody who is a suspect in front of me, if I have his identification or photograph along with that photograph matching software, or his fingerprint or some biometric print, I will be immediately able to say that this is that person who has done something in UP or some other part of the country. As of now, it is not 100% reliable when somebody says that he has done no crime in Maharashtra. Then we have to be doubly sure about what is the status in some other states of the country. That gap will be filled. That is number one. Secondly, there are procedural delays in some other parts of, it is not only about crime and criminals. For example, an issue was raised about passport verification. There are instances where somebody is living he was born and brought up in Bombay, but he is on a study, he is studying in college in Delhi. So he applies for a passport in Bombay, but they say, or in Delhi, but they say that he has been staying here for the past 1 year only. So it will be better it is also verified in his that town. So it is sent to Bombay or some other place and takes a good deal of time more. That gap will be filled. That process will be shortened. There is something called PASARA, Private Security Agency Regulation Act. Entire state of Maharashtra has so many security agencies and so many watchmen who are from other states. Their antecedent verification or character verification takes so much time because they come from other states. That process may also be shortened.
Are there any more questions? So we wind up this, and thank you. Now we have with us Mr. Loknath Behra, ADGP Kerala Police. He is looking after modernization of police. Sir, I request you to please give an address.
That's actually what normally the police officers do. Always reach little late. I am supposed to speak on the ICT in transport system. So, as a police officer, I will not actually talk about something relating to how infrastructure development takes place with the help of IT in transport sector. I'll talk something very mundane, very practical. we have something now, yeah, I mean, something called intelligent transport systems, where we use ICT to the hilt and see that the system operates and prevents, basically to ensure safety and security. That part only I will cover in this particular talk, very brief talk. Well, ICT has actually transformed the transport sector in a way. See, it starts with the issuance of license, driving license. For example, earlier days, you fill up a particular form and give it to them and give some money, and after some time they will give you a kind of a passport kind of thing, with a not very attractive. So, and that used to be the driving license. These days we have the smart driving licenses, which is just like a credit card, and it has some information embedded in that. You can read that by a card reader or something. That is definitely one of the good things which have happened. But more so, what in Kerala and some other parts of the country also are being done is that the test which is taken for issuance of a driving license is now heavily dependent on information technology. For example, some years back, when one of my friends from India actually migrated to Canada, both wife and husband, after some months they told me, yeah, we are not getting the driving license in Canada. I said, what happened? He said, look, they take so difficult test that everything is actually controlled by a computer, and you go and drive, and if you just trade a particular line or just miss a line, then there is a beep, there is an alert in the system, and you are failed. So I said that is what is precision. You have to necessarily actually drive in that particular manner. It's not a zigzag kind of thing which you can always afford to do it. More so, then they said, they also take a driving test during the night hours. That is also seen by some intelligent cameras. It's not much of human intervention, and it is all analyzed in a system. A kind of, may not be that sophisticated. We have also a system now in Kerala where you have to drive, and in a cubicle you can see with a particular monitor that how whether you are doing it properly. If you are making a mistake, the program actually shows you that you are not actually fit to drive. So this is a kind of thing which I really liked, considering the fact in Delhi, where I spent so many years, they say that in Delhi you give $5,000 and you can get a license. May not be actually a very generalized statement, but there were middlemen, touts, etc., who used to get the license and give it to you by giving money, even if you don't actually drive, know much of the driving. Or when we had a seminar on road safety in Delhi, the Delhi police officers used to tell me, sir, what to do? Those people, Delhi is such a place, lot of people come from outside, from different places. They are not that educated. They are not that actually they fail to recognize even the traffic signs, etc. But they get a license, and they start driving even heavy vehicles on Delhi roads. And that end in definitely big accidents, etc., where fatalities also occur. So this particular ICT-enabled driving license issuing system is definitely a very good thing, and I only hope that as a part of governance, it's a part of e-governance. A part of governance, if that comes through in all states, it will be good. And you might be knowing that the new, if you have not gone through, please, I request you to go through, download and see the new Road Safety Act, which is going to be enacted in the Parliament, and there are consultations going on that. This particular act has brought in some paradigm shifts in transport sector. I don't know how much of the provisions will be accepted by the parliamentarians, and it is their prudence and their knowledge and their convictions which will matter. But the expert group which has formulated that, I had met one or two members of them, they are very particular. They have actually put a provision like this, that you can get a driving license confined if you are going to drive from a state, if you are confined to that state. That means you can drive with that license issued by, say, Kerala government or Kerala transport authorities, if you are driving inside Kerala. If you want to drive interstate, then you have to get the license from a central authority. So there is an issue relating to center state and the constitution, whether this is acceptable or constitutional amendment will be required. That's a different matter. But why this was, I asked, why you have actually incorporated such kind of provision? He said, look, we have so much of different terrains in this particular country. Say a particular person who knows how to drive in a hilly area, he has to actually have different skill than a person who drives, say, in a plain area or in a desert. So therefore, a particular person who is a very good driver may be in Kerala, may not be a very good driver in Rajasthan. So this is the way, and they have brought in a kind of comparison, like issuing of an arms license. You can actually have an arms license issued from Kerala if you are going to use the arms only inside Kerala. If you want to use it interstate, say in Tamil Nadu or in Karnataka as well as in Kerala, then you have to go to the Ministry of Home Affairs, which issues the license. They say that that particular thing we have brought in. Okay, that is a part of national security and internal security issue, but this is the issue relating to the transport, which is there in the state list. It is a state affair. For this is, so therefore, whether that will come through or not is a different matter. But this is actually not relating to the ICT I'm talking about. This is a general kind of thing which I thought I should bring to the notice of the House. Now, as far as the intelligent transport system is concerned, it has different components. One of the components is definitely proper regulation of traffic and reduction of accidents. Now, you might be all aware of, all of you must be driving some vehicle or other. In India, what happens, if there is an accident, if a bigger vehicle hits a smaller vehicle, the bigger vehicle becomes accused. If a pedestrian is crossed, then the vehicle will be the accused. The vehicle driver will be the accused. Notwithstanding the fact there is fault on the part of the pedestrian who might have come and get crossed by a vehicle. So, what is the actual cause? What is the reason for that particular accident? If you take the statistics from the police, probably you are going to reach a wrong conclusion. Therefore, when you say that road engineering, enforcement are very important for traffic accident reduction, where we are, when we are talking about that our conclusion in terms of the investigation carried by the police is wrong, that every time the accident takes place, it may not be a case that the bigger vehicle is at fault. So, in fact, some years back in Kerala, we introduced a particular system based on the IT. That used to be the name of that particular solution used to be called the GeoCams. This particular program, this solution was devised by a company for Western Australia, the Western Australian Police, and it has different layers and it has different components. One of the components was analyzing the accident. You put around 13 parameters in different, in a particular format. Say for what was the light condition, what was the road, all these things you put it, and the algorithm gives you a particular kind of thing that, yes, this could be the possible reason for accident. I'm happy to say that a little modified version of the geocams is in use by Tamil Nadu. And they are able to analyze accident more empirically than many other states. So in the recent time, when we are in the police, Indian police, we are implementing something called the CCTNS project, Crime and Criminal Network Tracking System, which will be implemented in 14,700 police stations, which have already been, some phase is over. So in the specialized solutions, which will reside over the top of the database of the CCTNS, we are now proposing this particular type of solution to reside, so that the accidents which actually end in registration of a case, investigation by the police, to actually analyze what really has happened. So there will be definitely difficult things culturally when we are actually having a mindset that bigger vehicle has to be made accused. So in the process, probably we will change over the period of time and say that we analyze the accidents and really find out the cause, whether it is due to the faulty road engineering or otherwise, or it was due to or vehicular problem or something like that. So this is one of the things which we are trying to do right now, and it is up to the Government of India to take a call on this particular thing. This particular software uses heavily the GIS and as well as the analytics to actually analyze the accident. My question is that the other thing which has been also implemented in the city like Jaipur is that automated traffic management system. It is not the question of only the cameras which are going to capture the red light violations or the, crossing the Lakshman Rekha or the kind of traffic lines, etc., etc. But it is much more than that. What we are trying to do is, we wanted to automate the traffic signals in a manner so that there will be no congestion at a particular place. And this was actually experimented by the Kolkata police with the help of Keltron and the CDAC some time back. But Kolkata police could not implement it the way it should have because of the kind of traffic there. So now I only hope the experiment which is going on in Jaipur is successful. If that is successful, the Government of India has allotted more than 100 crores for this particular project, which is to be implemented in 64 cities. I only hope this particular thing works and we are in a better position to enforce and regulate. This is the automated traffic management system. I just don't want to take much of your time. The last thing which I wanted to tell you is that we lose so many people every year on the roads. Somebody said that we lose much more people's life than even terrorist attacks on road accidents. So it is incumbent on us to think over, because Ravi and his group of people who are so committed to e-governance, I only hope they also give such thought to accident reduction, which will save lives. Definitely, it is a very important part in governance to think in that particular way, that how to reduce the accident, how to reduce the fatalities. And as you know that the country is known as a progressive or a developed country. If a developed country, there is a superb system of accident management or prevention of accident or reduction of accident. You will be having accidents in the United States of America, I'm not saying, but the kind of accidents which take place in our country and the kind of things which you see on the road when you are driving, that doesn't happen in most of the developed countries. When we are developing, we have to necessarily think that more we actually concentrate on this particular aspect of work, probably the development will be better. This is what I personally feel, not as a police officer, but as a common citizen of this country. So as far as the last thing which I wanted to tell you is that the ICT's use in the mass transport, like the metros, there are actually lot of security systems, including cameras, intelligent cameras, use of analytics, the database management, everything in the mass transport system like a metro, etc., are in place. You can actually have a look of the control room of the Delhi Metro, and which is actually being replicated in Cochin now. They will be actually running by next year. So we are also trying to put that particular kind of softwares, etc., to give us a lot of actually information relating to the safety and security of not only the trains but also of the passengers. This is last year, when there was a conference of US and India dialogue on internal security. This was one of the issues which has been raised by both the sides, and they said that there will be a synergy between them to take the best practices in relation to the use of technology in ensuring the safety and security in the mass transit. I'm very happy that I could come and speak to you a bit about about the issues. There are a lot of issues relating to the intelligent transport management, and I'm sure e-governance group with Ravi at the helm of affairs will do something very good and very pioneering in the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madhukar Pandey and Sir Loknath Behra for their inspiring speeches. With that, I request Mr. M.S. Pari to please present mementos to our key panelists, please. Mr. M.S. Pari, Food and Civil Supply Secretary, Government of Odisha, I request you to please present memento to first to Mr. Madhukar Pandey. He's from Maharashtra Police. A round of applause for our eminent police speakers from police, who are our saviors. And then Mr. Loknath Behra, ADG, Kerala Police. A group photo is requested from you, please. With the mementos would do good. Thank you to the eminent journalists. And now we are moving on to